Star Citizen Live is a good chance for us to see the devs talk a little bit more freely about the stuff that's going on, but over the last year, they have very much downsized its reach. It used to be they'd bring on any dev, and now they could all talk about all the things. This is how a lot of things were said that the community latched onto, and when those things did not happen, we would quote it and bring it up all the time and wonder where it is and take things as promises. So they've started to have more of these talks focus on the people who are at the pillar positions, people like Rich Tyrer and not Chris Roberts, but that kind of situation. One of those people is Benoit. He's the CTO, and he is very interested in sharing with the community. He's a big part of the community. He's a big part of Star Citizen. For those who don't know where he came from, he actually has been with Turbulent since 2001. There's a good video here. Well, I say it's good. It is. I am biased. But save this if you want to learn more about Benoit and Turbulent. I'll drop it in the chat for you here. This is, oh my god, that's such an ugly link. This is kind of the story of how Turbulent was brought on. Because Turbulent was its own company up until a couple years ago, but it's been working on Star Citizen since like 2014. And Benoit's been at Turbulent since then. So he's been one of the longer people who's been on this project. And over that time, he's really become, I think, a real believer in what they're trying to do. And so has become CTO of the company, let his company be acquired, obviously took some ownership stake in this all. So he's very much into this, and he's got his hands in the pie, so to speak. He's definitely, if you want to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, he's one of them. So we're going to listen to this talk he had with Jared. It's the third now. I would advise going back and listening to the other two because they're going to be evergreen, good content to listen to. But throughout this, I'll be pausing, giving commentary. I'll probably cut that out of the video you guys see at the end of the year. But if you want to come join us live for these, they're also quite fun.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live Tech Talk with Benoit Beausejour. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, lucky you. No, it's where we take usually about an hour out of our week and we chat with developers on these special shows that we do with our good friend, Chief Technology Officer and all-around swell guy, Benoit Beausejour. We usually take a bit longer. Last time we took 3 hours. The first time, the time before that, it was close to 3 hours. It was maybe 2.5 hours. This time we're clocking in at about 2 hours because we have meetings that we have to go to at about.
See if they actually hit that. So, oh yeah, about 2 hours. Good job.
Yeah. I'm running out of gas. What else do I do in the intro? Oh, I got to introduce the person. So I've mentioned this person in Benoit Beausejour a few times. Yeah. So let's go ahead and meet Benoit Beausejour. Benoit?
Hi.
Hi.
I have to say I'm impressed with your pronunciation.
He has gotten better. I remember when he first started having Benoit on the show. I don't even think he'd say his last name. I can't remember for sure. But I'm pretty sure it started out a little rough.
12 years now.
No, but it keeps getting better. No. Every time it's better.
Well, I practice privately.
There you go. I know. Thank you, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
So I'm Benoit Beausejour. You want me to say it again or no? Okay, good.
No.
I am the Chief Technology Officer at CIG. So I guess the best way to describe it is if it has a computer chip in it, I'm kind of involved in a way. So I run the engineering teams.
Oh my God. It's like even our rings and watches have computer chips in them now.
Star Engine Group, and I meddle with all areas of the game, trying to get us forward to our 1.0 release.
Meddle's a good word.
Yeah.
My blood sugar is weird or something. I can't see with my glasses. I'm seeing better without my glasses, so we're going to take off my glasses. Although I'm going to have to do the show like this. Now I can't see everything else, but I can see this. This is important. All right. So on these shows, on these special Tech Talk shows, I think, we are going to cover a variety of topics. So these topics have all been discussed ahead of time. We worked out. Benoit, as involved as he is with so many aspects of the game, still needs to be afforded the opportunity to check in with other directors and get updates on what they're doing and everything, so that we can provide you the most up-to-date and accurate information. So this will be a show.
See, it's not a mistake that they're not having everybody come on these shows and talk anymore. That became a problem for them. Like, as much as the open development is good, if they talk from too many different perspectives, then there's too many opportunities for information to be misinterpreted or to come out wrong. So they've definitely honed in on making sure that there are certain people giving these messages, and clearly Benoit's a big one for them.
So it's less about taking questions.
Jared is a huge asset to this project.
Just a very candid conversation about the current state of the game, the development, where we've been, where we are, where we're going, that stuff like that. So I've divided the show up at this point into sort of three things. I'd switch teams for Benoit. Oh, that wasn't in chat. I was just talking to myself. No, that wasn't.
He means he'd go from, the commenter meant they'd go from Star Atlas to Star Citizen for Benoit. That's what they meant.
In chat. Send a DM after the show. That's not appropriate. So we're going to start the show with updates to existing endeavors. So this is the third one of these we've done. We've talked about a couple of things. So I'm going to update on a few of these topics that we've been covering through this before the second section where we get into some new things that we haven't discussed. Cool. So let's start with the biggest one, which is server meshing.
Yeah.
We're now a year on. We talked about it ad nauseum leading up to this thing.
Yeah.
It's now been out a year. This is probably the last time we're going to talk about it for a while again, until Dynamic comes, and we're not going to put any dates on that. So let's put the story of server meshing, let's put a button on the story of server meshing.
Sure.
And I'll break it down into 4 sections. How's it gone?
We've been living amongst Jesus for 1 year now, he's saying. What is to come?
How's this last year been?
Well, so like if I recap, like almost same date last year.
Almost, yeah.
Was when we actually launched 4.0 and server meshing actually went to the live environment. And so, yeah, it's kind of the 1 year anniversary of the tech being available for all players. It's been surprisingly solid. I like to say that this way because it's a very large system. But it has given us just good foundation for what we had to do last year in terms of the content drive that we've pushed forward, the performance improvements that we wanted to deploy. It was like we were expecting a lot more turbulence with the release of server meshing than we've had in a year. It's been a very, very stable system overall. And so I would say, like, if I look back at the year, obviously there's always problems, with new technologies, but the server meshing itself has been very, very, very solid for us.
Okay. So in the, quite frankly, years leading up to it, talking about it, it began to get this mythology that it was going to be this silver bullet, that it was going to be this one-stop fix that was going to fix so many issues. It didn't fix every issue in the world. It was never going to fix every issue. But I want to talk about what it has enabled for us in this last year.
Yeah.
So what are some of the benefits that we can draw a direct line from server meshing that we've experienced in the last year?
Well, like if you walk back,
That's a good damn question.
back to the Star Citizen experience before 4.0, so before server meshing got introduced, a server crashing, that was the end of your session, right? You would lose your ship, you would lose your cargo, everything would disappear. You'd have to reconnect, restart the client, start over, right? Anybody who's lived through the first years of development of the project know how intense this was, right? And so the first thing that server meshing brought us is server recovery. And so because of the fact that the replication is separated from the simulation, when a game server crashes, which is where most of the crash risk exists, the state of the replication is still good. So we just tell you, hey, we're getting another server, you stay there, and when it comes back, we can recover exactly where you were. You don't lose your ship, you don't lose your cargo, you don't lose your materials. And I think that's been a very, very big, it's a kind of the unsung hero feature of server meshing. It helps with, engagement, playing longer sessions, finishing missions. And so for me, that's like one of the big pluses that was brought in with server meshing. On top of that, and we did have some crash isolation, to be clear, in 3.24 and before, right? But what server meshing really brings also on top of that is crash isolation. So if a server is in charge of the Crusader area and he's the one running into issues, then only that area is affected. And so the player who's, bounty hunting in Pyro or something like that, he's completely safe from this crash. And that just, the perceived stability has increased a lot based on that. On top of all the work we've done.
That has been really nice. I actually think that's a pretty crazy. I don't know how often that happens in other games. This could be a pretty common thing. Not like this is the whole open development thing. We hear about these things because they actually talk about it. But I do think that's a really cool bit of tech where you could be in one place and be experiencing the absolute worst time, but because the optimizations are actually working, somebody else is not experiencing that. That does suck for the person in that place. They have to fix that part, but at least it's not the whole server
from crashing
shard
in the first place. But just this whole setup has made the game a lot more stable in that sense. So that's just the kind of meat and potatoes of what meshing has brought us. But the key bit it brought us also is much larger player counts. And so we used to be limited to 100 players per server, which had the whole universe to simulate. Now we've got a series of servers simulating the universe. And so we oscillate between caps of 600, 700, 800. We're still experimenting going higher with this, depending on multiple factors. That cap changes for the moment. But just the fact of having more players in the same shard means you can have an event where 200 people show up at one area. Surprisingly enough, we've also discovered things through this, that sometimes game servers actually perform better with more players in one area than one server simulating the whole universe would, because he has less entities streamed in, and now it's all about updating the components in that area. So we've seen certain events, because players always find a way to, organize something that should be a problem. But there was a 400 player party in one of the bars on New Babbage, and we looked at the server performance through that, and it was actually very, very decent. And so we expected a full meltdown, but it was actually good. And so
but how about the chat situation though, Benoit? How about talking to each other?
Enables that experience, right? Obviously, there's a million other problems to solve for this to be a really good experience, but from a server meshing point of view, that was a big win.
You've got a 500 player.
He already knows. He already knows that's what we're saying. We're like, yeah, the server meshing worked, but how much everything else? We'll get to that. Thank God.
No, it's like that becomes a kind of common thing, and we love it because that's exactly what the tech is meant to enable. And then obviously the two other things that meshing has brought us this year is 2 new solar systems.
Yep.
And so for years we had been stuck in Stanton, expanding the Stanton system, more POIs, more planets, more things. And now suddenly we were able to branch into Pyro, which was, everybody at CIG was really looking forward to that. It was internal tension at, when are we going to launch this thing? I've been working on this for a long time. Yep. And so that was really a relief to be able to get, players to cross the jump gate. So the jump gate technology obviously comes with meshing. And so expanding into 2 systems in 1 year.
Being able to add Pyro in January. The tech preview was December the year before, but it went live in January, and then next goes live in November, same year. It's this, the most common question. We've been doing this for a long time now. Here, forget other places. We've been doing it just here for a long time. And one of the most common persistent questions is about the pace of development, and people have been waiting very long for certain things, justifiably so. Yeah. And we've always maintained that its development kind of works on it builds. Yeah. It builds and it builds, and you get more efficient after you build the tools, after you build the foundations, stuff like this. It gets more efficient. You can do more later on. This year, because of server meshing, we were able to kick out 2-star systems, and we're still expanding on Nix. Every patch this year will expand Nix even more. It's the one in March is looking to expand a bunch of the service stations and our first big content drop, which I'll go ahead and say right now is supposed to be Rockcracker. If you watched what was it called, Citizen Direct, me and names, you can learn more.
We knew that was coming though, didn't we? I'm really looking forward to that one actually.
More about that, but we're currently working towards that as our March release, and then on.
We got to get more details on it.
Build
though.
out Nix until I think in the Road to 1.0 presentation at CitizenCon 2 years ago. No?
I don't want to go on any more roads. Can we all agree, as a community, as a people, as a group here, can we all agree that we don't want to be on any more roads? The 4.0 road, that contractor was embezzling money, dude. That like the road should have ended years ago, and they just kept laying down pavement. Yeah. Environmental conditions. Yeah. We gotta buy this property. Oh yeah, that's right. We need a new mixture of asphalt. No more roads. Let us get on an airship or a blimp. Maybe a dirigible to 1.0. I would prefer I just prefer to avoid roads.
Well, a year and a half ago, Rich Tywer acknowledged that Castor would be our next system whenever that comes online. So it's just this technology.
What does that mean? It's unlocked the capabilities to do what
we can actually start to deliver so many of these things that we've been talking about and working on behind the scenes. Instancing has some role in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. There's one more thing that server meshing brought us that's not negligible, is a very substantial gain of performance on the game servers in general. So like 324 game servers were running, we had a very low bar for acceptance on FPS for game servers because we just had to deal with so much. Nowadays, like server FPS is magnitudes higher. So that actually allowed some of the content we've already produced actually.
What are you guys seeing in terms of server frame rates these days? I was in a server a couple days ago, and it had, I think, about 580 people in it. Well, the shard did. My server had, I think, 130 people, and we were hitting about 15 frames per second on the server. Not ideal. Not as bad as it used to be with even 50 less people. Not necessarily the greatest though. What are you guys seeing? You seeing over 20? You're seeing around 15. Better than the last 4 years, but sometimes not great. Right? Definitely a higher average, like he's saying, but could use some help. He just said they've been experimenting with higher player caps, but doesn't seem like he's going to explain what the problem is. We'll see. It depends on when in the patch it is and how many people. You're seeming to get mostly above 10 though. You get good in space. On a good day. Oh, you're talking about client side. 23 average in New Babbage. 15 sounds about right. 15-ish for you. Sitting at 15 right now. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's better with higher numbers. But a big part of it is like, we used to have just one server handling the entire star system. Now we've got, 4 handling one star system, 12 handling the whole game. So it's improving. It's getting there. We'll see. They do have to keep making those steps forward. I don't think just because we ended the year of playability, they're going to stop optimizing and getting things better. So we'll see where they can get by the end of the year.
Fine, because it was working properly. And so that's because servers have less to simulate. We can optimize their workload. We've also reduced we've talked about this before, but we've reduced the size of the game servers because they just have to simulate one area. And so overall, meshing has improved server performance by big magnitudes. Yep.
We do need to do a big
my
big
head
meetup
is not
soon.
Smaller. My hair is just bigger. It was very windy and rainy today, and it's just...
We need to get 100 plus people together.
I
at some
haven't had a
point.
dye job. It's greater than it's ever been. No, we are not taking questions from chat, but I will comment on every one of you commenting on my appearance. So that's static server meshing. We know the next big stage of server meshing is dynamic. What can you tell us, if anything, about that?
Well, so the dynamism in the mesh,
Dynamism?
right? Dynamism, I guess.
Mm.
So we're running out of words internally to define what the next step of server meshing is. Currently, we're working on quasi-dynamic server meshing, which is we're trying to iterate on the static mesh, right, to bring it so that if an area is empty, right, and nobody's there, we can spin down a server, and if people go to that area, we can spin up a server. To achieve all this, all of the mechanics required for a full dynamic mesh need to be there. So like mass authority transfer between servers, because when a server goes out and it has X amount of entities that it currently has authority over,
to give all those
it needs to give that
server
to another one, and that obviously you don't want that process to lock up the parent server. So that whole mechanism is what we're working on at the moment. In fact, we've done over the break.
Crazy.
The team has actually reached a milestone.
Tell you what, the long term for my podcast, I want to be interviewing game devs and talking to people who are actually working on games about the stuff that they build. I really hope someday I can talk to Benoit or really any of the guys from the team at CIG. In fact, Benoit has done some work, but there is a whole team that did like the real groundwork on server meshing at CIG. I'd love to get one of them into the show just to like talk about the structure of what they built and how it works, because it's pretty crazy the way that it does make the structure of servers within servers rather than making one server with other ones inside of it. Like making containers for servers that can pass stuff between them. Not a completely novel thing in like networking, but pretty cool from my perspective as far as a game works. I've not seen that kind of thing before.
We were able to run with our internal testers a test of quasi-dynamic server meshing internally, so that's good. I mean, it's the first test, so it's a bit rough, but it basically requested, I think, 200 servers to run the mesh. That was a little bit of a but yeah, our ops teams, Ahmed specifically, got a call from Ahmed immediately. But anyway,
so wait, you've been calling it quasi dynamic, and I've been trying to workshop a new name for you, and I've just got a little bit of dynamism. But so you did your first test of this quasi dynamic, like, hey server, you try to determine how much you need, and the first thing it did was ask for 200 more servers.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah, a little bug in the assignment system, but
that sounds like human nature.
Correct. So that's what we're working on right now. That's the next step towards the full dynamic mesh, right? Obviously, the goal with the dynamic mesh, just to recap it, is that instead of having a subdivision that we pre-make in advance, like currently, every patch we look at the territory assignment, is what we call it, of like what's coming. Like, oh, we have an event at this place, and most players are going to go to this system, and so we adjust the mesh, right? And sometimes we get it wrong, and it's a very manually intensive process, and we don't want to keep doing that. So the goal with the dynamic mesh is to be able to just adapt to where the players are, the cost of the location they're in, to be able to provision compute dynamically up and down. So there's also the unfortunate cost equation in this, right? The current static mesh will always provision a server for every territory that's configured. And so there's a little bit of savings we can go and get there. But more importantly, the dynamic aspect of it is to be able to always make sure that the proper compute is available for players when they're in an area doing something. Right, so that's the goal.
I like that all of the talk is from the perspective of what needs to be done and the fact that it's just work that needs to be done. There aren't these hypotheticals or superlatives or just like all of this rhetoric about how great it could be or how like groundbreaking it is, or the fact that the tech is the first of its kind. It is. I mean, I'm not going to say it is or is not. It is very cool and good tech, and the people who are working on it should be able to brag about that, but he's here on camera to share the actual details of like what needs to be done. And I think that's that's more of the communication that people are looking for rather than, say, some of the stuff you might hear at CitizenCon. This is a great talk compared to some of the more marketing-focused CitizenCon stuff.
Chat's debating whether the servers have actually achieved AGI and have played the game, and they're just like, we've played the game. Give me 200. So that's server meshing.
Yeah.
So that's server meshing.
Yeah.
Last year, last year was coined as the year of playability.
Where are you headed, dude?
So we've just backdoored a whole bunch of playability improvements that server meshing, which dropped last year, enabled. So we've had all of those improvements last year that made the game far more playable than it was in any previous year. But that phrase has been used, it's weaponized, it's thrown back every once in a while, every time somebody encounters any kind of bug whatsoever. So I want to talk, and that's not entirely unfairly, because everybody's bug that they're encountering is the most important bug in the universe at that given moment, and that one is not resolved because they're encountering it. I want to talk a little bit more about what we did gain last year. So it's whether that's the transit system stuff, the 30Ks finally being killed, the creatures and boss fights and stuff. When you tell me, how did our year of playability go in your head?
Well, so I think that, obviously coming from the server meshing improvements, there was also some failings at the beginning of the year where we saw, transit became a very big problem. That's an example of a
Only
system.
because we tried to use it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or tried to serve you, but badly. But that's an example of a system that was built years ago that wasn't properly scaled over time. And so when you added dynamic gateways for the transit system plus the meshing situation, that became a really problematic system. And so that was, I think, the first order of business once we launched 4.0 was like, we need to really take action on transit. And so we talked about this last year, but we did create the Transit Heroes group, which was a
Transit
coalition
Heroes
of volunteers. Well, they got volunteered. Voluntold, yes, exactly. To come and give a bit of oversight on this too.
No, they came in late to work that day.
Look at the system to see, okay, what do we need to actually, have stable elevators and trains and, make sure that that's always available. Because the traversal of the game, if that doesn't work, then the game doesn't work at all, right? If you can't
these are the kinds of things that they simply were not doing for years because they didn't care because there was no game, right? Until 4.0, until server meshing, there was just not enough of a reason to dedicate entire teams to chasing down bugs for things that would have to change after server meshing anyways. Sucks that we have to do it all after server meshing, but it's clear that once they hit that milestone, they were much more willing to start investing time into fixing this kind of stuff. Thank God, but it still is. Oh man, it's so awful sometimes. It's so freaking annoying.
An elevator to get out of the habs, then,
You've got 20.
good luck, right? So the Transit Heroes team, I think, has done a fantastic job. They haven't re-engineered the system in that strike team, but they really focused on self-healing strategies, right? If a manager loses a carriage for some reason, for any reason, well, just create another one and get this thing rolling, right? Now, they couldn't fix, in this effort, they couldn't rebuild the system. There was fundamental flaws in how it was engineered for server meshing support. And so, but at least they got it into working condition. So I do think, like, if you look at the game now, transit is no longer the big problem it used to be, right? Like, it actually functions when you need it. Now, that said,
most times
it fixes
Trains and stuff, yes. I don't think I've had any train problems, but freight elevators are still I think one of the biggest failure points in this whole game.
itself, right? So
Feels
it's
like
still getting in a weird state, but it fixes itself. So, we've done more about this, and we'll talk about that
And
later.
we're building the transport system
Correct.
concurrently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while this
that's
team is repairing the transit system, we're building a new bespoke transport system.
So last year, I think it was in, I want to say the February monthly report. They actually announced this initiative. Let's see. I think it was in core gameplay. Yeah, a strike team was formed to deal with underlying issues affecting the transit system, while another continued with the ongoing refactor towards the new transport system. This was, this whole rework was something that they had actually been talking about for quite a while. It was one of those reworks that was kind of working in tandem with server meshing. The mission rework was one of them. The transit rework was another. And you were kind of thinking, oh, these are supposed to finish around server meshing, right? It was around this time where server meshing was going live, and they were talking about creating an entirely new team for a new transport system, while they had a completely separate team just fixing the current one. That was when it was like, oh, this is gonna take a while. And here we are a year later, and we're still talking about not the team that's making the new version, but the team that's still fixing the old one. I'm guessing we're going to talk about the new version here, but I think we do. But it's just crazy how big an initiative some of these things became after server meshing really showed how much work they would be.
So transport is basically the fix for this, like the real fix.
Let's get to transport when we talk about what's about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what else did we get last year?
Well, I got a list here that I worked out a little bit with Jens just to gather up, because the game is so big. So
I'm gonna limit you a little bit on this time. You've got.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna give you 5 minutes.
I'm being time boxed
because we do want to get to the new exciting hotness. And
I'll go
stuff.
first.
This is important.
Okay, so we talked about 30K
hold on,
protection.
my clock app.
Okay,
Here we go. Sorry.
Go for it.
Go.
You should be a producer. Okay, 30K protection, transit improvements, right, to make it stable. A stable tech base for the content teams. What doesn't show is that to achieve the content we shipped in 25, we actually froze a lot of the technology to give the content teams a stable base to work off. Before, it was a bit more of a mayhem. So we did that. As we built all of this content last year,
Sorry, that's one more thing that just got brought up. Squadron 42 is a huge ace up the sleeve in comparison to what most MMO companies are doing. A lot of MMO companies are literally just building an MMO, which is a very risky endeavor, and your success lives and dies by that MMO. CIG has diluted themselves a little bit by also having a single player game, which is a more guaranteed sellable experience that they can also depend on. Not completely, but at least partially. And that's actually a really big, thank you for mentioning that.
monthly patch was a very heavy cadence.
10 patches last year.
Yeah. I think that what's really cool is that we've built kind of a library of locations and events that if you start playing Star Citizen today, there's that to do, right? It's like that. We never had that before, like a real set of locations that have like a full-on, storyline to follow. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
In these locations, we're able to ship some new creatures. So a lot of new creatures and boss fights. So we had the first couple boss fights this year, with Yormandi, Stormbreaker. So that's like a brand new, design discipline for us to design boss fights for multiplayer elements. So that's new. Spawn and Hangar is something that we've actually been able to enable this time. So we tried to enable that in 20.
One thing about those locations, I love what they've been doing with those locations. One thing I'd like to see them keep doing is keep adding more and more missions that factions give that send us back to these locations. I think that is one of the best parts of any game, is having different reasons to go back to the same locations and finding new parts of that location. It's almost free content, You don't have to make a new location for us. Just make us see it from a different perspective.
Something that we've actually been able to enable this time. So we tried to enable that in end of 24, and that was a bit of a disaster. 25 now, Spawn in a Hangar is there. So if your hangar is available, you spawn directly there. That's actually a very large quality of life improvement. I play the game a lot. It's, not having to go to the hubs is fantastic. We've been able to put weather in key locations, including some of those big hero locations we talked about. We're hoping to do more, but for now it actually is there. 2 new star systems, we talk about this. Jump gates, which is a whole, a game on its own. The way it functions is actually super interesting. As you're going through, the zone is moving and you're moving within the zone. It's really a fun system to go through. So that's in. We fixed the goddamn bounty beacons, which is one of the coolest loop in the game. I love it. And, that was obviously not working. So now we've actually got them to work again, which is
I'm glad beacons are back, but I wish...
a big win. Quantum interdiction was in the same bag, where now with a server mesh, having proper interdiction was kind of difficult. So restoring it was an interesting one. We had to actually build systems to allow that, because not every server has a view of the entire shard anymore, and so in order to interdict cross-server, you needed to have a special tech to do that. That fixed also quantum linking. Now, routing is still... there's still issues, right? Yeah. It's getting there, but at least there's been some quality of life improvements on that side that we've done this year. Freight elevator, ongoing.
We'll have a whole section on freight elevator.
But there's been a lot of, if throughout the year, freight elevators have received tons of
compared to where they started when we attempted to push them when we pushed them to the forefront for an event, and compared to where we started. But let's.
We talked about server FPS and stability from the meshing and the cleanup that we've put in place. Also, we've pushed at the middle of the year. It came for you guys at the end of the year, but actually we merged it at the middle of the year. But a whole new tech base, including at least a year of graphics update, including Vulkan, coming into the game now. That was what will allow us this year to do some pretty long.
You guys know what the big sleeper there is that came in with that update that they haven't been talking about? But I did mention it in the video that I just released. If you guys watch that after this, tab it up, save it for after. They released a new UI rendering engine with this newest update, Paint. Ali Brown was talking about it late last year. They were using building blocks to make UI, but they were still using Scaleform to render it, and that was slowing them down. But they have released a new update to UI in 4.5. So I think that could be a reason that we've been seeing UI not really make much of a move forward, at least the more advanced UI that we were seeing at CitizenCon a couple of years ago. So that could be why we are now about to get the actual inventory in. It's likely why social apps are probably going to come in. Maybe we start seeing some things like FPS radar and scanning happening a bit faster because they, I don't know, feel more confident with it. I'm not sure. But I do think that is a big, quiet addition that came with that engine update in 4.5 that they haven't really been mentioning. Hopefully we'll see some fun from soon. Actually, we will see it soon. They announced that the inventory is going to go into tech preview on Monday or Tuesday.
Large changes as well. The first weaponized mech, so the Atlas ICT came in, so that's also a really big boost. We still don't know if it's a vehicle. John Crew and I have this ongoing feud. He says it's not. I say it is.
You're dipping into content here. I'm not going to let you count the. I'm not going to let you count the ICT. That's content.
That's fine.
I'm not going.
Yeah. Well,
although
exists.
The jump jets were a feature.
Yeah. There you go.
The jump jets were a feature.
Sneaky feature
for the ICT.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will take that. Comms notification got a big facelift. Something that we want to use a lot.
The comms notifications are awful. How many people signed up for a big group for clearing the air and just constant notification? Oh, it's hell.
More of. And so we needed the proper
Turn them off.
tech to be able to render that properly.
Please, God.
And not just the quip lines, which, you need more immersion than that. So that was actually a pretty big thing with facial animations and tracking. And so that's in there. And then cross-shard progress for events. So, what powered a lot of the content this year was a new service in the background of the game called the scenario service, which, whether you're doing, clean air or the resource drive last year, the cross-shard progress of these events is tracked by the scenario system. And so that's how we were able to show tables about, how many resource drives and resource drives, stuff like that. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a pretty good list. You just got, it says 502.
Yes.
Look at that.
On time.
He's talking about the NPCs calling kind of thing.
And you didn't even mention like item recovery?
No, I did not.
Didn't mention item recovery. And there was one other that I had until I got distracted by my own clock.
It's all a blur.
I got distracted by my own clock. Basically, it's hard. Let me think about how I want to say this. If you've been watching this show long enough, you know that I'm not above taking a section, in this case 5 minutes of the section, to basically go through some talking points that I want, that I think are important, that I think people want to hear. We have had things like the year of playability thrown back at us in comms, and when you see, I tune into a Twitch stream or YouTube thing, and and somebody gets a very frustrating experience. I was looking at experience of somebody, just going to town with their whole C, and they went through a jump point, and it took them trying to go to one system, it kicked them back out to the next system, and the thing crashed.
God, I hate
and they
that.
got back in, and the spindles they tried to open the spindles, but the spindles were closed, or looked closed, but they were actually open. So they were in the wrong state. Tried to get refueled. Tried to go to refuel. The refuel thing wasn't working, and then stowed the ship and spawned the ship, and it didn't come back on the docking port. It came back in their hangar full of cargo, and it's like this. It's like,
kill me.
we acknowledge that. I'm sitting here saying we acknowledge those things. But there was so many massive improvements last year. You used an analogy last time we did with this about I think it was the big freight container, the big giant Suez Canal shipping things, that you don't just turn the direction around, you don't just spin the wheel and suddenly you're facing a new direction. It takes time to move these things. And the efforts of your teams and the people under you, these strike teams, these hero teams as you call them, to turn this ship that we call the persistent universe around in the last year, has been phenomenal. If I'm allowed to have a personal opinion, being the shill for the company that I am, has been phenomenal. We haven't gotten everything. Everything. We still got another year. The work continues.
Yeah.
It's just 2 more years, Jared. It's just 2, right?
It's my show, and I wanted to take 5 minutes to acknowledge the tremendous work of those teams, and a whole lot was accomplished last year, in addition to the amazing content work. I said 10 patches, and I realized we actually had 11 because we kicked engineering out.
Yeah.
We kicked engineering out in December, so it was actually 11 patches. 11 patches in 12 months is pretty crazy. So you allow me to have a moment, to have some time to sit there and sing the praises of those people, because I've seen where we were, and I know where we are, and we're in a much better place now. Still,
it's just the beginning of the
still
term.
Places to go.
Yes.
That scenario I just described was like last week, and we got still places to go.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the progress we've made.
I think it's a testament to kind of the systematic approach we've taken to solve some of these issues, instead of previously we used to just assign tickets to people and they would find the fastest way to solve it, and now we kind of work as a team with the teams in quality assurance that are basically the arbinger, like, no, it's not fixed, I can still repro, right? And these guys have been going through a systematic approach for it. I think that's paid off a bit.
We get better.
Yeah.
Not always, but we try. And in this case, we've definitely gotten better. There were some big changes to internal infrastructure and stuff in the last year or two, and we're seeing the results of that stuff. All right. So now let's go into some specific updates here. So let's talk about the transport system. We don't need to talk about transit so much anymore. The transport system is what will one day replace this thing.
Transport us.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard talk about there being a tech preview of it soon. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the transport system.
Well, so transit was problematic, wasn't designed for server meshing. And so transport is a complete rebuild of the transit system, but using more server meshing native approaches for how different pieces are going to manage elements that are streamed out and streamed in. We're also moving away from some previous misconceptions that were put into the transit system. For example, one of them was responsible for trains going into space. We don't want trains to go into space. So
You might not.
yeah, well,
Maybe-
I mean, unless
maybe
we
just
do
one.
a space elevator. that'd be dope.
Astro train.
Yeah, Astro train would be great. So the state of transport, right? So at the end of last year,
So I'm going to pause. What's included in transport? So what are we talking about?
so
Elevators.
transit and transport manage elevators, in-ship elevators, trains, anything that has to move when you press a button and you call it. So
Okay.
it's a network of carriage, peripheral, and gateway.
Okay.
Right. So you take an elevator to go
Okay,
to
I
your hangar.
actually, so I did
That's
not
transit.
Take a
know
tram.
that this included in-ship elevators and stuff. That's interesting.
You take a tram. that's
Anything that's automated, anything that
Correct.
moves you
Exactly.
not under your control.
Right. And he's the one moving the carriages, right? So he needs to deal with carriages being streamed out, like prediction for that stuff. So transport is a rebuild of the original transit, which has been, as we talked about, problematic. So the state on transport is at this point, we are, it's functional. So we've, the team at the end of last year actually completed the first transport link, which was we tested this internally with our QA teams extensively at this point, all of the new Babbage HABs links. So we took one link in the universe, that one, and we tested the crap out of it. Right now, that's a static link. So it's going this. When I say static, it means the 2 points that the elevator goes to exist.
Okay.
They always exist. So we know that works. Then the state at the moment is we also support hangars. So these are dynamic gateways, because if you're online and you're at the location, your hangar is spawned there. That's a dynamic gateway. If you leave, that gateway disappears. So the system needs to deal with dynamic gateways. The previous system
Did not.
kinda did, and the kinda bit was the piece that wasn't great.
Okay.
And so we've got internally at the moment new Babbage, we've got hangars and HABs. So the state of transport now is the team is working at converting all of Area 18. So we're talking HABs, hangars, transit trains, all of Area 18 to the transport system. So we're going to go to tech preview with that. That's our plan.
See, Area 18 is our home. I don't know if I feel better or worse knowing that they're about to start experimenting with the transport system there. It's going to be bad at first and then good after that. But also, could you maybe just update the whole planet while you're at it? I really want to see what R-Corp's going to look like in the new version.
And the reason why we need to go to tech preview is because we need players. We've tested this internally. We can't muster as much players as we want, so we're going to try to see if you guys want to come and help us out, test the new Babbage Transit for real on a tech preview to validate all the assumptions that are in the system.
So we're going to launch tech preview and ask people to just come and ride the elevators,
Correct.
come and ride the trams
And their hangars.
and their hangars.
Yeah,
and
dude.
hope nobody dies.
No trains.
Yeah, it's going to be
in
such a
space.
show.
No doors opening to nothingness.
Oh my God.
That's
That's going to be the
great.
craziest tech preview
No
so
passing
far.
through the floors in the carriages.
The single most exciting tech preview we'll ever do. But incredibly important
Hey,
because it's a tech preview that doesn't just affect Area 18. It's one that can literally affect quality of life in every single landing zone on board every single spaceship. Because
That has an
the
elevator.
ships that have elevators
Correct.
and stuff. Well, then space stations. It's going to be this little thing for Area 18, but it ripples out to everything.
And so after a tech preview, if everything is validated, there's one thing too we want to try to avoid is the train prediction taking you in 32 seconds to come in, where the train says train arrives in 1,060,000, which obviously we hope that's
I just
fixed.
thought it was a metaphor for the project. Am I allowed to say that?
At this point, you are. So after tech preview, we're gonna scale this out to every landing zone, and we're going to see which patch this will load in. But at that point, we hope to bring transport in and completely deprecate the transit system from the game and nuke it from orbit.
Cool. Yeah. And that's next week.
God, we wish.
We don't give dates. Best effort, but it's looking good. Like this tech preview is going to be where we're going to evaluate really like where we're at with scale, because the issues of transit typically come up with scale most of the time. Right?
Fair enough. I told you we get back to freight elevators.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about?
This is the painful half of the show. We're going to get to the good stuff soon.
About freight elevators and what still needs to happen.
Sure. So the freight elevators are way more complicated than we can imagine because they get affected by other systems like hangars, like planetary locations. There's also multiple flavors of them, top loading, side loading, and they all operate very differently. So this year, we've had issues at the beginning of the year clearly with the freight elevators, like losing items, obstruction, blocking them from functioning.
You said the beginning of the year, but that really came to a head in July.
Where we had even an event that would rely on them, which was, in retrospect,
Well, we knew there was a collection of issues, but we also all of our data said they were only
localized.
Localized on this. It wasn't until we went to scale.
That's right.
That we realized, oh, this is actually even worse than we thought.
Right. It's also coupled to a couple of things, and for that event specifically, which was, we concentrated missions in key locations. That's one thing that has been in our discussions all year, was how we distribute missions, right? How we, if we launch a new mission tomorrow morning and we send everybody to the same spot, that is problematic. Not just because it's not fun, because it's a traffic jam, but also it causes other issues. And so we learned a lot from that on the design side, I think, overall. But so freight elevators, though, so we're pretty happy with some of the core mechanics, but there's still very egregious issues that we're tracking. So there's roughly 73 total issues that we know about. 51 of those have been resolved. So I've asked one of our teams in our Nathaniel Fisher, resident expert in freight elevators, to track that. So the rest of these issues some of them are really problematic. One of them we actually discussed, you and I, just before the show, was how if you're turning in Wicklow items, you need to put them one by one.
Things in a box. You have to be able to put things in a box.
Correct. And so
you have to be able to put things in a box and have.
And then we need to be able to sell that box. God, I lost my mind. What was that on Wednesday when I couldn't sell? It's so annoying.
That box.
Yes, I agree, 100%. And so that's going to be one of the first ones I think we need to look at. The other one is a bit more problematic because we don't have a proper repro for, but sometimes there are lost items that fail if there's like a backend slowdown when things get stowed. So we have a couple reports for this, not many, but the ones that we have are critical. And so, this is a kind of a rule we've set on the CGP team. So Jens and I are pushing this to everybody. It's like the golden rule for everything related to freight elevators or anything that touches inventory is a player should never lose an item interacting with these systems. Right?
Yes, please.
We need trust in them 100%. And so that's why we're tracing on those issues. So there's still a lot more work required on freight elevators for different edge cases. A new one that we started seeing in 4.6, which seems affected by another change, but is sometimes like putting stuff on the elevator, not on the grid, will cause it to disappear,
right? Which
is kind of a physics cleanup conflict. So I know we're looking into this right now.
That sounds like a Star Citizen
That's a big
thing.
one. But and then everything that has to do with stacking. So having a stack in your inventory that you want to unstow onto the freight elevator. That mechanism from a backend perspective is actually a creation. I know that sounds weird, but you have a stack of 10, that's one item with a stack of 10. You may bring it's a creation of 9. So that bit is not stable right now. We're trying to improve that that mechanism.
It's hard.
As soon as I hear the word stacking, I'm like,
There's a lot of the chat right now is debating Wicklow at the moment. And
wait, did I say his name?
Well, if I say it 3 times, he shows up on the screen. But a not insignificant part of the dislike for Wicklow is directly related to that freight elevator. It's just we have a section later on. We asked around. We'll get to it, but we'll give you a preview. But we started talking like what is the single greatest quality of life thing that we can do. And I went around and I asked a couple head honchos here around the company because I was curious. I did an interview before. Like what to you is the single biggest quality of life thing we could do?
What would it be for you guys? I guess persistence would be the biggest one, yeah. Persistence or like, no, I'd say that's bigger, yeah, than social apps or being able to chat. Just knowing that stuff's actually going to last is the biggest thing this game probably has going against it right now. Because we always talk about the biggest jump in player concurrency was in the beginning of 2020. Some of that was no doubt the pandemic, the shutdown, people getting a bit more into games. But I think a big part of that was also because that was the time where we went from having persistence one patch to the next to being able to get something in a patch and have that last into the next patch. Before that, you'd get reset every 3 months. And I think that change actually added a lot to people playing more. So I think they'd get another step up if they figured their persistence problems out now. Yeah, a lot of y'all are saying the same kind of stuff, actually. Quantum, org tools, or quantum, social tools, persistence, economy. Yeah. Inventory. It's really like the same 5-6 categories everybody's sort of would say is the biggest problems with this game.
The single biggest. And on more than one occasion, shout out to Jens. I'm going to spoil it here. Not losing items.
Yeah.
Just not losing items. Just that seemingly simple, benign, innocent little thing. Like if everything else is important, everything else is super important, everything else is super necessary. It absolutely is. But God is my witness. If we can just make it so people don't lose their items, so I agree. Shout out to the heroes of the freight elevator hero squad. I thought it was Strike Squad, but you've rebranded it during this call as Hero Squad, and I like it.
Right.
So we'll do it. And
Transit heroes.
Recovery, the people in the new inventory, people who are working on the new inventory system right now. It's everybody working to fix that because that's just the single most demoralizing thing in the world to me.
What is the orange crate?
Speaking of item recovery, we launched.
They were doing that before the show, right? What was in the orange crate they were doing in the middle of them?
V0 or V1 or whatever the heck we called it, T0. I'm hearing that
the first thing to pop up after I asked that was functional toilets, so I'm going to assume that's what's in the orange crate.
A T1 on the horizon.
Correct.
Talk to me about it.
Well, so the obviously Tier 0 was a fairly large change to the game, so that in the case where you die in the verse, instead of having to run a corpse run to recover your items, you would actually respawn with them.
Playability.
This was mainly done to, we're in an alpha game, we needed to do some compromises, so we looked at that.
Yeah.
So item imprint.
Literally, that was the clearest sign that they were on a playability pusha. Playability pusha. They didn't have to do that. They could have laid out the roadmap for us on how this feature was going to work and then went away and worked on it, like they did with base building. But instead they're doing a slow rollout, I think, because they want people to be more open to playing the game right now.
There's multiple names for this at this point. Item imprint, item recovery, Tier 1, entitlements 2.0. Those are all sort of related. So the gist of it is, and this ties into, some other subjects, but is that currently when you play the game, right, and you look at your ASOP terminal, I think I've said that last time, but I'll still go through it again. When you look at your ASOP terminal, the list that you see there is the list of entitlements that you own, which ship that you own, you have a right to, right? Then that's cross-linked with the actual ship. Do you have it? This entitlement, let's say it's a Connie, what is it in the game, right? And where is it? And that's how the ASOP terminal shows you the list, right? So That's why you're able to have a row when there's no ship and it says retrieve or deliver, right? That creates the ship. Then deliver brings you the ship on the platform. Those entitlements currently, they don't live across patches. We recreate them. The first time you log in, there's a big process that reconciles your account, grabs your web purchases, grabs your LTP records, and recreates those entitlements. Obviously, long-term persistence has always been kind of it's a difficult problem to solve. It sounds simple, but it is not, I assure you. But in order to facilitate all this and also other item recovery needs, we've decided to basically persist those entitlements across patch. So these things will never get wiped anymore. And so losing a ship is not going to be a thing. That's not going to be technically possible. We never really delete entitlements. And so you have insurance on those records, so you can claim insurance. The only way to lose a ship will be if you no longer have insurance on it. You still have the deed for it, but you can't claim it. So item recovery is a rework of the entitlement system. It touches on how you claim insurance on ships. It allows snapshotting of ships, but also FPS items, so that these live with an insurance loadout that we can keep and recover. And then will give us the ability to recover or claim your even FPS items. So think of it as an insurance system for FPS items, right? So this whole mechanic ties into LTP as well. We're also hoping through the system to solve some of the issues that exist with, taking components off of a ship, then claiming the ship, losing the components, and or in some cases being able to duplicate some default components. This whole loop is insurance has always been a problem design-wise for how this functions. So item imprint v1 allows you to imprint items, save that state, and then recover it on death or when you claim insurance.
So that's the next version of item recovery, but I don't think he says here, or doesn't really imply here, when they're thinking that's going to be around. Obviously it's not going to be a thing until after crafting, I think. I don't think it could come before that anyways, but it doesn't sound like something that's coming with crafting necessarily.
All right, so I have a couple questions here based on what I heard. You keep mentioning insurance. Are you saying that insurance will be in alongside V1 or just, yeah, exactly.
Correct. I say insurance because that's the same kind of loop in terms of what the services are doing to do this, but basically it's a snapshot we recover from.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So when item recovery V1 comes out, it'll still be much like it is today as far as insurance. Everybody will just have everybody has LTI on everything at the moment right now until that very specific gameplay system is implemented. So this is not that.
No.
So I can't tell necessarily here if he's saying that when they do implement this, everyone is going to just not have to register or pay for registration for the items right now, or if he's just trying to let people know that the clock is not starting on their insurance. Because when they bring this in, I do think they should let it be a money sink. I think they should have people pay to register their different goods. Otherwise, how are we going to test whether it's not working or working? Right? I'm guessing it's the latter. He's just making sure people know that insurance itself isn't actually starting in terms of the timers right now, right? Yeah, I'll rewind it so you can hear it again.
Basically, it's a snapshot we recover from.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So when item recovery V1 comes out, it'll still be much like it is today as far as insurance. Everybody will just have everybody has LTI on everything at the moment right now until that very specific gameplay system is implemented. So this is not that.
No.
You're using lowercase I insurance.
Lowercase I, yes.
Sorry, I just needed to. I'm like
underscore I.
I didn't think ship insurance was coming in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that before folks go off.
I do still hope it's still a money sink when they bring it in for this first iteration. We need more money sinks in the game, like just for the sake of encouraging us to play a little more carefully. It's weird that we just keep making money and there's nowhere for it to go.
You're saying that because it's a change to the entitlement system and everything will just get snapshot and moved over. When you say people will no longer lose ships, you're talking about that whenever a patch comes out, people come in and they're talking about the ships that they've earned in game, the ships they've either bought with AUEC or stolen or whatnot. Those should persist.
If you have an entitlement for something, we no longer wipe that between patches at all. We keep it completely.
Okay.
So that should give us a lot more. In fact, it is exactly the way you would expect it to function right now, except the way the systems were built in the past didn't account for that. And so there was cases where you could lose something that you own because it was left unstowed in a shard or something like that. And so now with the entitlement system, we keep that cross-patch.
So the first question I have in response to that is, how will people get rid of things? Because quite frankly, I might go joyriding one day, or I might buy a thing for AUEC and fly it, and then decide I don't want it, I don't like it, and now it's just sitting there staring at me in the ASOP. If these things don't go away between patches now, every time I want to try a ship, or I just move away for a ship, or John Crew nerfs the hell out of the ship and I don't want to fly it anymore.
Goddamn John Crew.
I might want to get rid of it.
John Crew hates me.
Is there going to be a mechanism for getting rid of these things?
Well,
he nerfed
not
my
with
ship.
item imprint, right? As part of this, no. But there are, I don't want to go too much into details into this, but I can give an example of you have a ship filled with cargo that you stow into your location inventory in New Babbage, and you claim that ship, right? In the current way the system works, that cargo's lost, right? That ship will get deleted and you're done, right? You get a new one, but it's the same entitlement, right? With the new system, we have the ability to also show you ships that you own that had an entitlement on it. And so what that means is you could claim that ship, you'll get a new, let's say it's a Caterpillar filled with cargo, and you're like, I need to claim it for some reason. You can claim the ship. The other ship will be bricked, right? That's how the design is functioning. So it's no longer usable, but you can still retrieve it. You can still retrieve the bricked ship and get it. And then if you destroy the ship or tow it out, then it'll go away from your entitlement. But there's going to be more system, of course, to remove that from your ASOP terminal longer term. But
So he's literally saying that during this time, like when we start getting into stealing ships, even if somebody bricks it, that won't remove it from your ownership, which is good because you can still salvage it, you can fence it, sell it, you can use it as, I don't know, your freaking drug cache spot. You want to hide some coke in the freaking dashboard of your Cutlass Black that you stole off some guy. Can't be traced back to you, right? I don't know, do we still do coke in Star Citizen? Kind of.
But there's going to be more system, of course, to remove that from your ASOP terminal longer term, but not in this phase, but longer term, yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the long-term players, the people who have been here for a while, who have acquired a rather massive fleet already. And
I'm a victim of this.
And you start buying ships, and I'm guilty, but there's just sometimes I don't want this anymore. I don't want to look at a a Rock DS anymore. Just want it out of my ASOP. I bought it mistakenly from Astro Armada. I just had it.
That's Jared's low-hanging fruit, the Rock DS.
I don't want that Rock DS staring at me in my ASOP for the end of time, because you've done a wonderful thing with item recovery, V1.
But now you keep it.
And now you're stuck with it. Yeah, some things.
Are you saying you don't want your ships anymore?
I'm just saying some things aren't meant to be persisted. So I just want to take this opportunity to just encourage
a good conversation.
There should be some way to remove, to get rid of it.
I'm very curious about why you singled out the Rock DS out of this.
It's awful.
Jared hates the Rock DS confirmed. Oh, you haven't been watching for a while if you're just getting that confirmed now.
It's doctrine, dude. Does anybody in chat like the DS? I won't bully you, I promise. Chat might, and I won't stop them, but I won't. Does anyone actually... They could probably make uses for the Rock DS by using environmental dangers and stuff like that, but it really just... It doesn't really come off as a very useful vehicle in the grand scheme of everything else that exists. It's kind of like the mule.
Jared, you're not supposed to be going on shows and telling people you hate certain ships. You're supposed to be championing everything. I'm like...
Yeah,
the DS is easy.
I hate the Rock DS. It's just...
It's easy to hate on.
It's comfy. Though.
It's genuinely the easiest thing in all of Star Citizen to hate on.
Two people. Look, I've never lied to you. I never will.
Sure.
It would be more useful if it had a tractor beam on it instead of a mining laser.
It's the only promise I've ever made people. You've been mentioning long-term persistence, so let's just wrap up this storyline of losing stuff, keeping stuff. The last time we had this conversation, you talked about utilizing this entitlement system. Is that what we were just talking about, or is there more stuff?
There's more. So there's a lot of work ongoing on this on the long-term persistent side. So just for those who don't know what long-term persistent is, or LTP. There's a mechanism we put in place to allow you to keep things between patches, right? So
I've got a good dealer for LTP if you guys want to hook up.
Every patch we basically destroy, like when you come into 4.7, when it comes out, that's a brand new database, right? The whole thing is fresh, and then we recreate things. Now, why do we recreate things? It's because these things are still changing. So the Hornet you had in 4.5 is probably different than the Hornet you have in 4.6. Item port locations have changed, materials have changed, serialized variables and all the data that goes with it has changed.
The gold standard Aurora that we just launched is technically an entirely different ship. The whole entity is different.
Exactly.
And under the hood. To the backer, it looks like, okay, you just added some fins and blah, blah, blah. But under the hood, it's an entirely new set of entities.
And so in order to allow us to keep stuff, we've built this system on the side that kind of keeps records of what you own. So it says, you own a Hornet, right? That system has always been kind of I don't want to say a crutch, because it did function for a long time, but we've outgrown it quite a bit. There are also many cases where we would remove records of things that you own because they're in play in a shard. And that's been proven to be a bit of a bad decision overall, and so that's why we've had multiple issues over the years of like players losing ship entitlements in the new patch, or having more items than they were supposed to get. Like, some people have shown some screenshots of demultiplication of things between patches, and so it's been a big issue, right? So with the item imprint work, we're tying into that. We're reducing the footprint of what LTP manages by a lot, because it will no longer store your entitlements. We just keep those as is. So that's one big bit removed from that system. The other complexity on that side is that it needs to manage nested inventories. And
back to the freight elevator thing.
That's just completely crazy. So I have a handgun stored in the glove box of my Merlin that's attached to my Connie, that's parked somehow inside of my, Idris, and stowed in my location inventory. Well, I need to give you a record for that gun, right? And so that system needs to reread data and store it, and it's really complicated.
Which is why people have gotten into the habit before a wipe, or before a patch.
Yeah.
Freudian slip, huh?
He said wipe. Avocado. Jared said wipe. It's happening. It's happening. Confirmed. This is it. This is literally how it goes. A single dev says the word wipe, and then people months later will be saying, yeah, they said they wanted to wipe. Like, I saw people talking about this video yesterday on Reddit. And people were like, yeah, they said they intended they wanted to wipe, but I guess not. Like, no, they never said that. Like, nobody can actually pull that quote out. It's so funny. Yeah, I saw your comment.
I know you people. But before a patch, people stow things in certain inventories to have their best chances.
Yeah, to kind of set it up, right? So on long-term persistence, ultimately, we don't want this system. Right. Ultimately, we want to get to a point where we don't need it. So step one is to reduce its footprint. So that's part of item imprint is that. So that's a big deal. But the next steps are start from the very low level, and will require some large company change. We need to be able to migrate your old Hornet into the new one, right? Or at least be able to know it changed enough, I need to give you a new one, right? Or being able to just migrate the shape of the hierarchy, the item port locations, and the serialized variable formats on these things. Now, the thing you got to think about the way the ships are built, right? The entities have components on them which enable them to do something. I'll give an example just for the layman. You have a health component on an entity that says, hey, I got 100 hit points. When that reaches 0, then we destroy the entity, or something else happened, it destroys itself, right? That component is written in code. There's a game programmer that's maintaining this. We actually have a health component. It does way more things than this, but just to keep it simple. So a game programmer is programming this, and he needs to persist the value of health so that when this chip is now either put in an inventory, then brought back into the game, that the values of the health components on the parts, on the individual parts, have persisted and we reload it, right? This is true for everything in the game, right? We have serialized variables and components across the game. There's, I think your character at the moment has like 800 serialized variables on it or something like that, right? So those are all different components. Are you crouched? Are you standing? Are you?
I remember when somebody told me that at a party back in school. They walked up and were like, dang, man, you got like 800 serialized variables on you. I was like, yeah, dude. They've been working out.
The limbs, stuff like that, right? So the programmers between patches, they just change that. I remove this one, and I put a new one in, and then because some of those variables, it doesn't matter if it changes.
Yeah.
Some of them matter, right? If you change that, like it's a different shape, it loads a different CGA model, whatever, right? So that's the big problem about how we need to forward migrate is we need to do this at the very low level. So currently, our network team and our online teams are working at this mechanism to be able to differentiate the important from the important SVs, the serialized variables, on components. So that's all across all components in the game. There's over 1,500, 2,000 components, individual code components in the game. So, for example, I don't need to know if you're crouched when I stow you in your inventory, right? I don't need to know that, right? But I need to know that when we're running and you're crouched, right? So we differentiate the two, and then we have a mechanism to migrate the data format from one to the other. When we get that functionality in and reliable, what that means is that we will just keep the database. And that is huge, because now that means there's no longer a process between patches that transfers stuff or moves it around or recomputes things. It's the same database. We're just moving its version forward on demand. Now we've looked at multiple different options for that. Some of them were like, just migrate people from one to the other, but then we'd have to keep 5 databases behind. It's just impossible. And so right now we're working at that option, and that's the longer term vision that we have for that. So first, reduce the footprint of the LTP system so it just manages some things, not all, and then work on the real fundamental issue, which is we need forward migration on all this data.
How many times in your life has a errant, random, unexpected...
It's so fitting that Benoit is in this position. The whole point of Turbulent as a company when they founded it was that it would basically just handle tech problems that companies that were in gaming or in movies, in arts, would need help on, more tech-focused stuff. So it makes sense that Star Citizen got so involved with them, and it makes sense that Benoit eventually went from that to being the CTO for what is essentially a tech company making a video game, at least for the last several years.
Serialized variable been the cause of distress in your life?
I mean, it's crazy. This is the single most important thing, because in case you guys don't know, every time we do full patch is easy because we patch server, client, hybrid, everything goes in at once. But when we perform hotfixes, and God knows we've done a lot of hotfixing this year, right? That's part of our process now. But there's specific steps where we have our live QA team need to do compatibility checks, and any change to any serialized variable, added, removed, change the format, change the data, whatever, incompatible client. And so getting our processes in place to catch those before they get introduced, right, is really taxing, because there's always also fix this bug. and that make the whole hotfix incompatible and we can't launch it. So we have to backtrack, change our approach, whatever. And so that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. This will also solve that if we can make it.
And before somebody says you should have just made a simpler game, Benoit. Have you considered just making a simpler game?
Yeah. Cool.
All right, I want to move into our quality of life section here.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit before because we just talked a whole lot about not losing things and all the efforts being made to not losing things. But there are other major quality of life things. For me, personally, after the not losing the things, it's social.
Yeah.
It's social. The ability to group with people, the ability to communicate with people, the ability not to communicate with people, the ability to just be like,
shout out to my man Hustle.
Hey, that's a bad person.
He's talking to you.
Bad person with bad thoughts and bad intentions, and boop boop, and kick them into the pit from 300.
Sure.
And whatnot. Never to see or hear from that person again.
Right.
The all the tools for joining up. Finally, people have been creating and managing orgs on our website since 2013.
Yeah, 13.
And this is 2026, and those orgs still not in game.
Correct.
Orgs are literally just glorified gaming groups on Discord still. It's actually crazy that we're like struggling so hard to figure out our own systems and like ways of doing things when they launched this platform for doing all these things 13 years ago, and there's just not enough support for it to actually do them. I do wonder what they're going to do with Spectrum once they launch orgs and how much of it we'll actually be able to use. Because we've all gotten very comfortable with the alternatives at this point.
What are we doing?
We're reenacting a little play because Benoit and I have had this conversation almost verbatim for a little time. I'm just doing the conversation we had in private for you guys right now.
Why you? Weren't you saying that you don't get the idea of why people block other people or something? Wasn't that I thought that was your thing. If not, then never mind. Direct that on somewhere else.
So my question, Benoit, friend, person whom chat has dubbed brother, my brother.
From another mother.
When, Benoit, when, please, dear God in heaven above or down below, who do I have to talk to?
Sure.
Give me something.
Good.
Social.
Yeah. Well, so, what is it now? It's all a blur. A social universe, right? The last panel that we did at CitizenCon. That outlines the vision of what we want to do with social. Now, with the year that we just had, we had to take a little bit of a detour on that initial plan. But
as they do.
Right now, we have completely formed the social strike team. And so, a bit like the heroes team, right? The social strike team, its only mission is to execute this plan, right? And so
so don't bury the lead. There is now an official dedicated team on this.
Social strike team, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And
social heroes.
So this group is currently looking at all of the components that make up the social systems now, right? Fortunately for us, the work didn't stop on this side, even though we couldn't.
Oh, thank God.
Enact the changes in the game. On the back end side of things, there's been a lot of progress.
That's what we needed to hear, was that work did not stop on the social apps, because holy crap, we can't wait. We cannot wait.
Social. And so even though the systems look primitive in game, their capabilities have grown quite a bit, even in 25. We
just not using them yet.
So we do have a block list that we...
Okay, so right here we finished the first hour, and I think this is around the point at which we change over from talking about a kind of review of what's been going on up until this point and leading up until where we are. And the next hour is more talking about the kind of stuff that's coming up. So they've been basically just spending all of this time talking about 2025. Here's what we did. Here's the effect that it's had. This is really how all of Benoit's shows have been since he's been on. He comes on, he talks about kind of what he talked about last time, what's changed since then, and then he flips on over to what's coming up. So I'm going to end this recording for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, and we're going to flip on over to a talk that's a little more about the future, about what's coming in 4.7 and what's going on with those features. So thanks for watching if you did. We'll see you in the next one.